Good day, boxing fans. I'm Scott Knipe, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of a Real Combat Media interview. This Saturday, April the 28th, 2012, at the Atlantic City's Boardwalk Hall, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins faces Bad Chad Dawson for a second time. These two pugilists have some unfinished business. The WBC light heavyweight title is at stake, and the two hope to pick up where they left off from a very anticlimactic first encounter. This is a crossroads fight for both fighters. If Chad Dawson is victorious, this will be his greatest triumph to date over the legendary Bernard Hopkins. If Hopkins wins, this geriatric wonder defies the odds once again, and at age 47, over a very skillful and awesome 29-year-old fighter in Chad Dawson. Chris Cercola, boxing reporter and writer from Real Combat Media, had the opportunity to speak with Chad Dawson's trainer, former amateur standout and solid professional contender, the Iceman, John Scully. The Iceman gave some enlightening insight regarding Chad Dawson's preparation for this fight, and he also talks about how they match up stylistically. Tune in, listen, and enjoy.
Thank you, man. How is it going?
Real good. We actually just got out of the gym about an hour ago, and just looking very strong. Very he feels, like last time we went into the fight, he kept commenting on how good he felt and how strong he felt, and for this fight, he keeps commenting how much better and stronger he feels for this one, because the big difference is he got into the gym much earlier this time than normal, and it's certainly paying dividends.
Mm-hmm. What weight does he come into camp usually, Ryan?
To be honest with you, he's only like 182. Like he could probably make 68 if he wanted to. So that alleviates a lot of stress for me, because usually a guy like him, usually light heavyweights come in at like 90, 91, 92. So for him to come in so light, we don't have to stress out about weight.
Yeah. What are you expecting from Hopkins this time? What do you think he saw in the first fight that he can maybe capitalize on?
You know what? I don't think Hopkins saw anything he could capitalize on. Mm-hmm. I think Hopkins realized that Chad was a lot stronger and a lot more game than he anticipated. But with that said, with his legacy on the line and his history and the whole nine, I'm certainly expecting him and preparing Chad for Bernard to come at his best, and he maybe even go out of character a little bit if he feels like he's losing. I feel like he's going to reach down as deep as he can, and whatever he has left, he's going to bring it. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting a good fight, because I think Hopkins realizes that if he is going to lose, it could be very one-sided. Chad has that kind of style where it could be a one-sided fight, and I don't think Hopkins wants to go out that way. So I think he's going to dig down and do his absolute best.
Yeah. Are you working with Chad on keeping his composure and himself under control during the fight?
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, contrary to what people are trying to say, I don't think he lost control really last time. Again, if you watch the tape, if you read about it, it sounds like this big orchestrated thing where Chad body slammed Hopkins. But if you watch it, it literally happened in the blink of an eye. There was no time to think or anything. Hopkins was on top of him, and he shrugged him off. It would happen as quick. You could blink an eye and it was over. Hopkins was already on the ground. So there was no time to think that he didn't, it's just he had a man that was on top of him, and he got him off. Like anybody would do that. Because a lot of fighters is mental, and fighters like Hopkins, they do things like that intentionally to try and gain a mental upper hand. Me being on top of you, pushing down on you, makes it feel like I'm manhandling you. And that's after the fight. If Hopkins were to have won, that's what they'd say. Oh, Hopkins manhandled him, pushed him around, and he bullied him. So Chad wasn't having it. So I don't think Chad necessarily needs to change anything. I think Hopkins needs to change it, because his dirty, ugly tactics. It's played out. It's not boxing. People are sick of it. They're more sick of Hopkins. I mean, they're not sick of Chad. Chad has no history of this. Hopkins is the common denominator. In every instance, he's the guy. He's the one. Robert Allen fight, Calzaghe fight, Roy Jones fight, all these fights, it's him. It's always him.
Mm-hmm. And what are you working on to make Bernard use his legs more and instead of being able to hold him and make it an ugly fight? What are you? I'm sure the plan is the same from the first fight, right? I mean, you don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main thing is you wanna limit the roughhousing. You wanna limit the contact and fight at your proper distance. So on the one hand, we want to do that. We want to fight at our distance and our proper spot in the ring. But by the same token, Chad's very strong. He's getting stronger, and we're not going to be manhandled. Hopkins isn't going to come in, and I think he knows that after the last fight. He's not going to come in and physically be able to push Chad, because Chad, I think, showed, and Chad said to me that he felt he could feel when they were pushing inside that Hopkins wasn't strong enough really to deal with that. So, and again, I think I mentioned to you before, when you see those two, when I was actually very surprised, but when we got in the ring and I saw the difference between the two of them, it was very startling almost how much bigger and stronger Chad appeared to be. I expected Hopkins to be as big as him, and he certainly was.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect more dirty tactics, maybe like hitting on the hips while the ref's on the other side, or lunging in with his head?
Oh, without doubt. Not the intention anymore. That's just because I don't think he opportunity. So
And your phone's kind of going out, buddy.
Yeah, you hear me? You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you better now.
Yeah, I certainly expected. I think Hopkins, that's just part of his game now. I don't think he would let an opportunity to do something like hit on the hips. I don't think he would let that slide.
Mm-hmm. Who's sparring Chad now to prepare for this?
Well, right now we're under strict orders to keep all that secret. Okay. But we have some very good guys, very comparable and strong guys, and guys that actually one guy in particular who really imitates Hopkins extremely well.
Mm-hmm. And Gary Shaw said that Bernard needs the belts because without the belts he'd just be an old ex-champion. That's why he took the rematch. To me, that sounds kind of unrealistic. When talking about Bernard, what do you think of that statement? Did you think Bernard has to take this fight?
Well, no, here's why he had to take it. Because in the court of public opinion, if he didn't take it, everybody in the world would say he was afraid. And everybody around, people in Philly would say, oh, man, because it's just, regardless of who the person in the equation is, just if I tell you, yeah, these two guys were supposed to fight, the guy was a champion, and the WBC ordered the fight, and the champion, rather than fight this guy, he gave up the world championship. Mm-hmm. If I told you that about anybody, anybody in the world would go, oh, the guy was afraid. He didn't want to fight that guy for whatever reason. So, I think at this point, when you're trying to secure your legacy like he is, the court of public opinion means a lot. It means it means a real lot, to have people talking and whether it's true or not, you don't want people, any large group of people under the belief that you were afraid of a guy. Giving up a world title for any reason, like how would you justify that? How would you say, what possible reason could you have to give up the championship of the whole world? Guys cut off their left arm to be a world champion. So there's no way he could just give it up and without a very, very good reason.
Yeah, that's true. And when Chad said that he would use his physical strength, I was thinking maybe it's kind of dangerous going to fight Hopkins because Hopkins was going to test his patience that night, So
right.
I was thinking, what do you are you working with Chad maybe instead of like pushing Hopkins around and pushing him backwards, maybe just to like hold him and turn him and stuff, and maybe control his strength and things in that way instead of like roughhousing him back and.
I mean, we don't ever, by design, want to have a rough house fight. Nobody wants that. Nobody in the audience wants to see a rough fight. Mm-hmm. That's just ugly boxing. Nobody gets into boxing and imagines themselves in rough fights. They imagine themselves boxing, you know, properly and looking good, and that's ideally what we want to do. I think our position is we want to match his skills. We want to see who has the better skills. Now, but by the same token, if it turns into a rough kind of fight, well, we can't just back down from that. So if Hopkins wants to do that, he's gonna get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said that Chad could probably make 168. Does he ever talk about maybe going down and fighting Andre Ward for big money?
Yeah, well, he's you know, we've discussed it, and you know, my thing was, I would just generally in a case like this, I mean, a guy, once they establish themselves at a lower weight, the best guy generally moves up now. So, you know, I'm kind of the opinion after Andre Ward, you know, whatever he does at 168, I would think he would come up to 175. You know, I think it would make more sense for everybody involved, and you know, he would probably want to go for a second title in a different weight class. So that's my gut feeling. You know, not many guys go down in weight, but from what I can see, Chad certainly could, because again, he comes into camp much lighter than most other light heavyweights do.
Yeah, that would actually be cool, though. I mean, to go down, because 168 is so deep. There's no guarantee that he would make it to 175 unbeaten still, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think Andre Ward's good. I mean, he's something else. You know, I'd make him the favorite over anybody else at 168 at this point right now.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you think Chad would do at 168? Yeah, I'm sure you expect him to win, right?
Yeah, I mean, Chad, you know, like if anything, Chad, you know, his speed might even be faster. I mean, who knows? I mean, Chad could carry the weight. He'd be the same fighter as he is now. He already trains hard, so it'd just be a matter of altering however he alters his weight loss routine. But his training really wouldn't change. You wouldn't have to train harder, so to speak, because he already trains extremely hard.
Yeah, and because he makes the weight so easy, does his mood stay better than most fighters? Yeah. Some
fighters are really terrible to deal with right before the fight. So far, from what I can see, he's generally a quiet guy anyway. So if he is moody, you wouldn't know the difference, because he's not a real talkative guy as it is.
Mm-hmm. And are you starting to taper off your training yet, or are you still going pretty hard?
Yeah, no, we're going in for the landing, I guess you could say.
And what do you see? What would we see if we walked in the gym and saw Chad training today? What do you do today?
You know, he has different drills he does with his strength coach, and we do the shadow boxing, and I mean the same thing. You know, he's been doing all along. You know, he looks really good. Like I actually think when he shows up at the weigh-in, I think people will be very, very impressed with his physique more than any other fight that he's had.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a prediction? What do you think is going to happen in this fight?
I mean, I'm never one. You know, predictions are, you know, who knows? But I mean, I certainly just feel like we're too big. When you add the size, the strength, and the skill all together, all the intangibles together, I just feel like Chad's the winner. You know, I don't really predict knockouts and that type of thing, but you know, I certainly. I can certainly envision more scenarios where we win than ones where we lose.